Since I was a child, I've been fascinated by the seventh art, known in Latin America and Europe as the cinema. Movies have the power to transport you to a different realm, a different universe. They have the ability to evoke a range of emotions, such as joy, thrill, sorrow, or terror. They are true magic.
Oh, God!
As a child, I vividly remember watching movies on the big screen at my small town cinema. The Vikings from 1958 with Kirk Douglas, who played Eric the Red, The Time Machine from 1960, and many others. As I got older, I became fascinated with Bruce Lee's films and aspired not only to be like him, but also to create movies like his. Despite living in a less than ideal location, I refused to give up on my dreams. One good day, I moved to Canada. Everything changed. One of the first things I got was a keyboard because I was a musician. The second was a Handycam. As time went on, I found myself creating videos for both my YouTube channel and clients. Still, regardless of my efforts, I couldn't achieve the cinematic quality I so deeply admired in the films I watched. Something was missing in the image. Everything looked so digital that I couldn't rest, trying to find a solution. To really enhance the quality of your films, mastering, lighting, camera movements, and frame composition is imperative. However, it's essential to admit that digital cameras may not capture the same essence as film cameras. Moreover, certain lenses can provide what we call a more organic image that contributes to the overall look. I spoke about that in one of my videos. Now, a little secret, which is not a secret, most of the time when I want something to look a little bit more cinematic, what we call cinematic, I use my Tiffen Black Promise 1/8 and 1/4. But I have a little problem. My 14mm cine lens has an unremovable sun hood, and I can't use the filter with that lens. An example of this is when I recently went to New York, where I couldn't use the filters because I was using my 3 lenses. Surprisingly, the DEHANCER team contacted me to review their software and create a video. Let me be clear that I was not compensated for this video, and they had no prior access to it before its release. I was provided with the software free of charge, but I was under no obligation to provide any specific feedback. The important thing for me was how to grade the footage and finally obtain the look I wanted, but in the least possible time. We all have lots of work to do, and time is money. We have our YouTube videos, many of us work with different types of clients, and some of us are even into short films and documentaries, and we do want to push the envelope every time we do a job, don't we? So I found that working with DEHANCER was saving me tons of time. I recently did a short promo video for a client, which took me a quarter of a time using DEHANCER. Okay, one last thing. DaVinci Resolve can sometimes be overwhelming. You start building node trees and things can get complicated. You can use either DaVinci Y RGB color managed, use color space transform, or you can use LUTs, and in the end, it can be complicated to the point that you don't know what's the best way, but most importantly, what would be the fastest way to put your work out there. On the other hand, when you use DEHANCER with DaVinci Resolve, you need to enter some parameters in your project settings and follow a very simple node tree, which I will show you in a second. Well, I actually did something even simpler than that. People, this is the best film emulation I've found so far. We can finally nail the look we're looking for in just minutes. You know, with simple clicks, this plugin provides you with a wide range of photographic and movie film profiles, complete with analog controls. You can add, among others, A very interesting film grain, bloom and halation effects. It has a full range of current Kodak Vision 3 negative movie films plus Eastman XX5222. And you know what? It has been downloaded 334,715 times. Let me show you. What I did here was that I went to the project settings. DeHancer recommends actually this in your color management settings if you want to work in a DaVinci wide gamut color space. So number one, color science. You set it up at DaVinci Y RGB color managed. Number two, you uncheck automatic color management. Color processing mode, you set up to custom. Check use separate color space and gamma. In input color space and timeline color space, DaVinci Y gamut and DaVinci intermediate. Next, output color space to Rec 709 and output gamma to Rec 709A if you are on a Mac. Remember my last video where I exported and I was losing a lot of contrast, etc. and saturation, etc. So this solved this problem. Next is click on save and let's rock. Now DeHancer recommends following this node tree, which may include noise reduction when you need it, your primaries like white balance and contrast, some mask in case you want to add some vignette or some specific light to your shot, after a CST in case you want to do a color transformation to your footage, and after that DeHancer, and in the end sharpening if you want to add sharpening to your footage. As I said before, I use a shorter method which I want to share with you today here. Actually, I followed Normatic George's video and then worked with the images I had to personalize them my way. But you can basically do whatever you want after. So what I did was I created a noise reduction node, then I created two parallel nodes, no CST, and at the end just the DeHancer node. Now I didn't apply noise reduction to all the shots, but I realized that in some footage I thought I didn't need it, but then when I applied it, it cleared it up even more. So this is something to keep in mind. However, the noise reduction I applied was super basic. Basically what I did was frames I select 3 and Luma and Chroma I select 7. That was all. Okay, so noise reduction, but I'm not going to do anything here for this short tutorial. Okay, next is contrast and white balance. Now in contrast, go to HDR, click here, go to color space and select Rec 709, and in gamma, Rec 709 as well. Okay, then bring your exposure a little bit up. Next, as white balance was pretty good here, I renamed it to saturation and bring it up like a bunch, okay, right here more or less. Now keep in mind that this is a B-raw file. If you have a different kind of file, you probably need to bring the saturation even higher or lower, depends on that, but at least you know where the saturation will be. It will be here. Okay, next go to effects and drop DeHancer. Now when you open DeHancer for the first time, it'll look like this, and you may get lost between so many stuff, mainly because you're not used to it, to work with it. So the first thing you can do is to press Option key on a Mac and click on any effect to collapse them all. Now don't worry about what you see. Right away you could uncheck film grain, because by default DeHancer applies a very strong film grain, so uncheck it, and so you can work with a much cleaner image. But before starting to do anything, let's go to monitor and enable clipping indication. This feature will inform you whenever you are overexposing or underexposing your shots bright or dark areas. Okay, now we are ready to create our look. Now open input. In source, select DaVinci Resolve Wide Gamut Rec 709. This is also part of the recommendations DeHancer tells you when working with DaVinci Resolve wide gamuts. Next, go to Film to choose your film stock. Now, DeHancer is an amazing tool because it offers you a wide range of photographic and motion picture film stocks to enhance your videos with a unique and stunning looks. You can work with the famous Kodak Vision 3 series, which is used all the time in Hollywood movies and independent films. Now here, I selected Kodak Vision 3 50D. Now, the letter D at the end of some film types, such as 50D and 250D, symbolizes daylight, while the letter T in 500T or 200T means tungsten. The 50D is best suited for outdoor settings, while the 250D is more suitable for indoor settings that utilize natural sunlight. So in this case, I'm using 50D here because this is outdoors. You can see right away the difference when I check and uncheck the box. Now, we can go to Film Compression and enable it. This will ensure us to add some compression to the highlights, giving us a more analog film. You can play with the impact button if you're not 100% happy with the default settings. Let's go here. Okay, that's good. Okay, now let's go to Expand and set the black and white points to the desired levels, looking for a nice contrast. All right, so this is a black point. Let's leave it here, and the white points about here. Now, let's go to Print. Now, this is another great feature because it allows you to replicate the appearance of printing on Kodak 2383 print film. It is as if you were filming on a Kodak Vision 3 negative film stock and then printing it on a Kodak 2383 print film. It's amazing. It looks like magic because of the nice look and color science that gives you a shot. Now, if after this your shot went out of limits you had set before in the Expand, you can go back to the Expand and set up your black points and white points again. Okay. Now, we're still on Print. Let's enable Analog Range Limiter. Let's go to Target White, which controls temperature, and let's warm it up a little bit. Now, let's go to Exposure Control and brighten up the shot just a touch. Let's now slightly increase the tonal contrast. Okay. The color density tool helps you to adjust the overall saturation of the image while maintaining a natural look. This here enhances the beautiful color quality of the Kodak 2383 print film. You can increase the color density all the way up, and the colors will be more vivid. However, depending on some situations, you may see some artifacts. In that case, just reduce the color density. We can move to the next step. When you finish adjusting the print settings, color head. Now this is where we're gonna get creative in building our look. This is like the color wheels, for example, in Final Cut Pro, etc. Now click on Enable and let's start. You'll see 3 controls, and they're going to affect your shot. Now, as you can see here, you see. Okay. The first thing you should do is analyze your image and see what predominant colors you have so that you can create a separation between them. Okay. The second group of 3 controls will let you either warm up or cool down your shadows, midtones, and highlights. A piece of advice here: if you are working with faces or skin tones, check your Vestroscope to see where it's going. Now, we're gonna leave the controls preserve exposure and impact as they are so we don't make a very long video. So we have yellow and blue, and let's move it a little bit here. Okay, now we have the second group, magenta and green. Let's move it a little bit here, more or less. Okay. And cyan and red, just a touch here. All right. Okay, last but not least, film grain. Here you can select the different presets that the software comes with. But if it still is too heavy for you or for what you want to express, you can scroll up, all the way up, and select Custom and play with the settings. Just make sure that here this is positive, so you have a more softer film grain. Let's wrap this up. You can download DEHANCER and get a free trial. And if you like it, you can get even 10% off your purchase by entering the magic code topic Ruben on your checkout. Hope you like this video. See you all in the next one. Peace and love.